Well, welcome to the Acton School Committee meeting, December 11th, 2018. And we will begin with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So on behalf of the school committee, and all of us here, I'd like to thank you for arranging this nice little snack party for us before our meeting tonight.
Okay, and special thanks to Bridget Whitman for catering our little holiday reception. It is the month of December and it seemed fitting, so please get up and get another cup of cocoa, or if there's any pie left or anything during the meeting, feel free.
Very nice, thank you.
So we'll just eat our way through, we'll eat and meet through this meeting. All right. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There is. Let's add an executive session to the end of the meeting tonight for personnel matters, please.
Okie dokie.
Which, I would recommend that we always have number 10, I think. One of them is always supposed to be executive session, then if it's used, it's used, if it's not, it's not. It should be there.
Yeah, I think we've done that some. Okay, any comments from the public?
Look at me.
You moved closer.
All right, then.
I'll run this from over here.
Then we will move on to number 3, which is Celebration of Learning, which is PBBIS. And Dave Cody and John Ross are going to do this for us.
Yeah, so Dave and I and Christy Hall, who you saw last committee meeting, who did a presentation on guidance, the three of us went up and presented at the Maine State PBIS conference. And although our format for the PowerPoint, we haven't cut a thing, is really like an hour's worth, Dave and I are just going to skim through it because you know a lot of the content, but we just wanted to show you what we presented. We thought it went great. We had a lot of great feedback from our audience. We were a breakout group in Augusta about a month ago. So Dave and I are going to pick up the pieces and run through this. We called it our successes and challenges of our first year school-wide implementation, and that drew quite a few people because they wanted to know the truth, what works and what doesn't work when you're trying to do school-wide PBIS. And those are our presenters. And we did a little fun with the audience, what their expectations are. Remember, PBIS is all about making sure people know their expectations. So obviously, like with the audience uses laughter and smiles to communicate their appreciation for the presenters. That's the kind of thing we did with the audience, and they were very happy with our humor as we started our presentation with them. We gave them some background on our school. I don't need to spend any time with you on that. You're well aware of who we are and what we stand for. And in the spirit of education, we gave them some objectives, and at the very end, we had a wonderful quiz, and we gave them some prizes to keep things light and lofty. And I think one of the nicest things we gave away was maybe a pencil sharpener or something, crayons, all things that, glue sticks, things that teachers could use. Our purpose statement for Acton Elementary PBIS. This is our purpose statement. It's important for every school that's going to take on PBIS with fidelity, which means they do all the pieces of PBIS, create a purpose statement. We did that last year. School-wide expectations, those are our areas, and we said that to be created is bus and bathroom. And as you've walked around our school for the last year and a half, you've seen voice level, recess, hallway, and you'll see bus and bathroom as time goes on. Voice level, for those of you that have ever come to any of our Friday assemblies, I open the meeting by just going like this, and you can hear a pin drop just by raising my hand. 0 voice. All kids know the expectation. It's so much better than whistling or yelling or doing something crazy to get them to quiet down. Our recess expectations, again, taught, reinforced. If a student does something out at recess, it's not okay. We say, what are the expectations? And we go over them with them. Our cafeteria expectations. we recently worked a little bit with the middle school to remind them of what the expectations are. Sometimes you need to do that. You need to go back and remind them, hey, we're into December now, what do we expect? Our hallways. And then school-wide celebrations. This was last year where every Friday we filled the cat cash jar. Every Friday, the last Friday of the month, we have a celebration with our cat cash. The kids collect cat cash, it goes to their classroom, they dump it into the jar on Fridays, and the last Friday of the month we take it down to the gym for assembly and we do school-wide raffles. And there's Whiskers, our Acton Wildcat mascot, and then with some of the kids, Michelle Levy's room. And Mike, I don't know how the sound's gonna work on this, I'm looking YouTube right in. Maybe I'm not. If I hit this, is it gonna play?
If it's a video, a bit of video, yeah. Should bring it up.
Just to give you an idea. Look at the faces of the kids. Okay, give you a little flavor of how excited they get about our cat cash. The next one. There we go. Teaching school-wide expectations in the classroom. And then you practice it. Underneath is the principal looking at the teacher saying, your classroom management techniques work in practice but not in theory. That worries me. Thank you for the humor on that one. So, Dave, you pick it up here, or is this still me?
You've once you had the floor, you've taken my part and your part.
So,
Yeah, you want to do the video? I was supposed to start at 8, so.
No, you always take it from
Hey, thanks, I appreciate that. So basically, when you look back at our different expectations that we put up in the hall and so forth, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea how, there was a lot of work that went in with this, with the PBIS committee, and basically we would work on, okay, what's the expectations what's it gonna be, how are we gonna display it, and then as you'll see, we went from there and then generated the lessons. But we didn't do it in isolation. As, kind of cohort liaisons, we would take a lot of what we were doing and go run it by our different cohorts too, and get their feedback. So it was really quite a process. I mean, I know the little posters seem kind of simple, and you may even think some of the lessons seem kind of simple, but it really took a while to craft them and get everybody's feedback to kind of make it a school-wide thing. Of course, everything is based around our safe, responsible, and respectful core areas, and we'll go on kind of, this is where I'm going to go with it from here. So this is a sample lesson plan, and we went through and created lesson plans for every single one of our core areas. Now, this one happens to be a matrix for the voice level, and I know you can't see it very well, but we basically did a lesson plan that introduced voice level, that actually taught voice level, and then giving the kids the opportunity to practice it, and then, of course, we monitor and get feedback and give feedback. The key to PBIS is tying it into an expectation, just like we have expectations in reading and writing and science and all of that, that we teach. and how we're gonna do things in our room. Well, these expectations here go right alongside of it. It's all part of our expectations. Well, of course, there's always challenges in any of this stuff, and you cannot account for everything. And some of the challenges really to this whole school-wide implementation, which we're still working on, by the way, this is still very fluid, is time constraints, which is always an issue in schools, of course, inconsistencies amongst us and the messages that we get out and so forth, and I'll talk a little bit about this. Ongoing buy-in, it's always easy to gain well, it's usually fairly easy if you plan well, like I think we did with the PBIS committee and so forth, but to keep this ongoing buy-in, so it doesn't end up, the flavor of the month, so to speak. It works for a while, and then then people remember 2 or 3 years down the road. Remember when we did PBIS, and, it's kind of like a distant memory. And then certain areas in the school are hard to enforce, and John, I think we'll talk about that a little bit. So time. Time, obviously we only have so much time in a day, we only have so much time in a year. Teachers, rightfully so, get a little bit stressed out when they find out there's one more thing that need to be taught. But we have to make time, and as cohort liaisons from the PBIS committee going out to our cohorts, we're kind of in charge. Obviously, I'm in charge of getting a lot of that information out and kind of pushing it along for my 6th, 7th, and 8th cohort. So, we tried to, when we did it, we got everybody together all at once, kind of as a nice, 6-8 team, and taught it that way. It saved, and different cohorts did different things. And then, of course, you have to make time, because just like anything, the kids know how to make a compound sentence the first time around, but then you don't go back to it for a while, then try to go again, and they don't know the compound sentence so much, so you have to reteach. It's the same with expectations for behavior as well, so you have to build in time for reteaching it. We've gotten a little creative with some of that as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Time to train, retrain, review expectations with teachers, especially support staff. We meet in our cohorts, but not all the support staff meets with us. So we have to make sure that we're keeping them up to speed as well, because they're interacting with the kids on a daily basis, almost as much as we are. And then, of course, time to look at PBIS data, and I think you're going to hear more about where the PBIS data is going tonight with Lori as well, and that's to me is kind of the fascinating next step, and what we're all really looking for is what is the data showing us. Inconsistencies, implementing the incentives. We have this incentive plan. We have these school-wide celebrations, trying to linking it to what we do in our class. All these things, and keeping it rolling and coming up with creative ideas is always a challenge. And sometimes, with different cohorts, they might do things differently, or the message might not be the same, or whatever. So it's tough to be consistent. Just number 2, handing out cat cash. Seems like a simple thing. You saw our cat cash. I forgot to take mine out of my pocket today. I have cat cash right here. All right. Little things that you don't think of, like I have pockets. I see a kid in the hall doing something. I give him cat cash. You realize that most of the women's clothes don't have pockets, so if they're getting their cat cash, little stuff like that, you wouldn't think is an issue, but then they don't have cat cash to hand out. So it's that little stuff sometimes. I know some people have found, give me a minimum number, and they lay them right out, and I think we established 6 for the week, and then some of the teachers really, that helps them keep track. Okay, I know I'm going to give out 6 during the week. It's different things for different people, and a big part of it for the inconsistency, I feel, is that us as liaisons have to keep the message going. Like I sent out an email this week to my team. Have you been handing out your cat cash consistently? If not, make a bunch ahead of time. Just little tidbits just to keep it on their mind. And student behaviors, inconsistency in student behaviors. One of the things that we had a hard time with the 6 through 8, which is, I think, is universal. Just maybe it may show itself a little different with a second grader versus an 8th grader, is keeping it going with them. You know, for a while, they may kind of buy into it. Sometimes it becomes old news to them kind of in a hurry. So we're always trying to find creative ways. One thing we did in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade was that we took and we tied the cat cash into our incentive system that we have in our classrooms, and we do a cat cash drawing that goes towards tickets in our own classroom. Tickets are good things. Tickets in our classroom. So the 6th, 7th, 8th graders, they kind of say, I like getting cat cash, you know, because it's going to go into our classroom drawings once a week that will play into our ticket system. I know Chad is, and Patty perhaps is too, I don't know if you're doing it together, but he's got some sort of a system that he's trying to work on tying in. So it's stuff like that we constantly are working on. And ongoing buy-in, you know, I think the big question that we still have to keep working on in the PBIS committee is staff buy-in, keeping the staff going on this and keeping that consistent message going. And again, student buy-in, doing little things, keeping creative, like teachers are pretty good at doing, I think, to keep the students invested in this system as well.
Jim Wood did a kind of cool thing. He spent some time on a couple of different occasions in the cafeteria and did surveys with kids. What kinds of school-wide celebrations would you like to get their ideas? Because a 14-year-old's going to give you a different idea than a 4-year-old. And that's where Dave's going. The buy-in for the younger kids can, you know, is there just because they get excited about the cat, you know, and for a 14-year-old, not so much after the cat's come out a couple times, right? So we're trying to be creative.
Yeah, one of the, when we're reteaching and so forth, like this year, we had the kids in 8th grade, since they are technically the model students, not always, but they're the oldest, that they created videos to reteach the different areas, the voice level, the bathroom, and for the other kids in the 6th and 7th grade, and some of these videos are hilarious. And of course, they're only demonstrating the positive behaviors. We don't want them demonstrating what they're not supposed to do. If they had to demonstrate that, they get me as a teacher to demonstrate what you're not supposed to do. But some of that fun, it was just really, it spiced it up. It wasn't the same old, it followed the lesson plan, but it wasn't the same old repeat lesson. And this is where, that's where you take.
So there's a couple of areas that are hard to enforce. That's part of it is because we haven't even developed, well, we're developing, at this time, we're now developing our common expectations for bathrooms and buses. Bathrooms is one of those, well, who monitors and reinforces the behavior? So it's a kind of a private area. We expect that bathrooms stay clean. You know, we have our kind of our expectations, but unless if we have people that are actually in and out of the bathrooms quite a bit to make sure that happens, it's hard to enforce. So we're going to have to talk about, you know, the middle school wing and down at the, probably a little less of an issue down in the elementary wing because it's a kind of it's a one-person bathroom, you know, who was in there. Just trying to keep the consistency, the cleanliness, and the expectations in the bathroom, and it goes to locker rooms too, both boys and girls. Buses, we contract with the bus company, so they're not our employees. However, they are wide open to having us help them with the PBIS system on the bus, and we've already kind of done a first run draft of what bus expectations will be. But then you can imagine also the training that the bus drivers need to be able to implement something like cat cash and consistently reinforce the bus behaviors that they want, not the ones that they don't want to see. So we're working on that. I'm pretty sure we'll have buses wrapped up and bathrooms wrapped up by midwinter. So we're working on that while we're still working on other things to expand. Our next steps, classroom level PBIS training. We're going to be doing that through ERD starting probably right after winter break. The bus expectations, develop and implement. The bathroom expectations, develop and implement. And we also have to complete our PBIS staff handbook, which thanks to Lori Lodge, I think is pretty close to being done. She's done a real good job with that. Again, one of those pieces to fidelity to the system is you need a handbook. There's a ton of behind the scenes things with PBIS to pull this off. You see the school-wide celebration of the cat and everybody's happy, but to get us to that point, as Dave said, time, a ton of planning, a lot of pieces that you don't see have to be put in place to pull some of this stuff off. I think this is mine, but Dave, to be honest with you, I was gonna punt here, and you actually taught kids how to come into the middle school classrooms, your cohort expectations.
Right. Excuse me.
I hit the second bullet.
Yeah, there are other kind of, look, these are things that pop up as you're doing the system. You know, entering the classroom, is it a part of a hallway expectation? Is it part of your classroom expectation? The bottom line, I think, this naturally led us, PBIS naturally led us to really kind of shoring up our classroom expectations in general and making them more, more specific, and to make them more complete, and to make them more, to reach them more. So that's really, I don't know if that's a school-wide thing or not, but these are things that I think we gotta keep looking at, is how do we link with what we're doing outside the classroom with what we're doing inside the classroom?
And a cohort expectation for a bunch of 14-year-olds to quietly have a conversation while coming in about last night's game is highly acceptable. But in kindergarten, they're taught most likely to enter quietly with zero voice because they're 5. When they're 14, almost 15, they can probably have a quiet conversation about the basketball game, but 5-year-olds have a hard time doing anything quietly. So that's why the expectations will look different in a school that ranges from age 4 to 14. The second one, this was kind of a happy coincidence. We were looking at some information, and you've heard the name Pat Red, and there was something by the authors of Red and Bickford, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. Wonder who Bickford is. And it's Rebecca Bickford, who's our new school psychologist. So, wow, how about that? So our new school psychologist is the co-author to the handbook of some of this stuff in the state of Maine. So Lori's hooked up with her, and she's going to do 10 one-hour workshops to design to give classroom strategies through the ERD process as part of professional development. So thanks to Lori to that. And lucky for us to have Dr. Bickford there. Right? I mean, that was just the right place, right time. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these next ones because in talking with people who wanted to develop PBIS, we went through how to kind of do these things. Like, we're going to be doing bus and bathroom, so here are the steps you have to take. And the handbook completion, Lori, are we done with most of those now?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things we need to review at our next day-long meeting, to look and make sure all the components are in there, but yes, I think so.
First week of November, I think we went up November 2nd, we weren't quite there, Lori was working on it, but I would say probably mission almost accomplished on that. Just some kind of things that, like, we believe statements. Administration must support the initiative, just like in anything in school. The other one is an administrator, the chief administrator has to keep his or her foot on the gas, is what I told the people up there. As soon as you let your foot off the gas, as Dave said, it becomes, oh, remember when we tried PBIS? It's got to be one of the core things that you do to keep it around. Got to be invested in competent PBIS team. That's the other one. This team is chaired by Jen Goodwin, and Dave gives her a hand. And
She doesn't need one, though, so that works out good for me.
Jen is the model PBIS
She's
teacher
awesome.
and does a great job with our committee. And it's decisions by committee, which that alone is different in schools. Sometimes people turn and look for me for decisions. It's like, it's not my call, it's a committee call. I can support it. I need to know what resources you need. I need to be able to support it, but it's not going to be John Ross' call. It's not going to be a Lori Lodge call. It's going to be a group call on how we do this. Part of it is you get great consensus. The other one is it takes 10 times as long to get things done just because it's by group. So for instance, a group of us are going to take next week, Thursday, the day, and we're going to go over to the fire station in the conference room, and we're going to have a workshop day, just us, to get work done. Otherwise, we'll never get it done. And we're bringing a couple of subs in to free us up. That's the kind of stuff you have to do to move an initiative this big along. That goes with staff buy-in, the student buy-in, the consistency, all things that Dave talked about, reteaching, celebrating the successes. I think we do a nice job with that. And Lori's going to speak with you in a bit about data collecting, analyzing, and sharing, but also know we haven't taken the course on what do we do with the data now that we have it. So we're taking a risk. We're going to show you data, but we're not very skilled in telling you exactly what we're going to do with it. But we'll come back and let you know when we know. How's that sound?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Oh, let's just see what I missed. Oh, wrap-up time for quizzes. These were the tough questions we asked. I think everybody got all the questions right. I like the last one, true or false. Christy would have been far better off if John and Dave did not come today. Christy got 1 or 2 words in and then we cut her off. I think Dave said something today in a meeting, when John and Dave are in the room, there's no air left. And and then there we are waving bye-bye. It was a good day for us, and I think we represented Acton Elementary School really well, to be honest with you. I think we did, and I thank Dave and Chris for coming up, and thank Chad and Michelle. Is there one more that went with us? Chad and Michelle went to the conference?
Yeah.
It was you and I and Christie, so 5 of us, right? Yeah. Any questions on that? I'll move us along.
So what I hear Dave saying is he wants to work a 9-hour day.
I work far more than that, Mrs. Stanton.
Shut me up? Yes. Okay. Mr. Cody, make sure you help yourself to something. Thank you very much, Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, very good. Interesting.
I'm glad you kept the data in there for Kevin Perk's memory.
Yes. That's coming right up.
That's good to find out. I mean, we voted a long time ago to implement it, and we've been kind of following along, and it's good to hear how it is being implemented and how it's progressing and how it's being successful, and that we're moving forward with it.
The staff's really done a great job. And everybody in the building has done a great job. What we need to do, our job as a committee, though, is to ensure that we can have forward progress and answer the tough questions. First year laying down the planks is one thing, but it's almost like a house. We're doing the finish work pretty soon. It's harder work to look at data and make decisions about kids based on behavior, but we'll learn how to do that the right way.
Have you noticed school-wide, do you notice a lot of changes since it's been what has been implemented already?
You guys been here longer than me.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, you can see that it's that process of becoming part of the culture when it isn't there yet, but it's getting there. Like I've noticed, I have these kids, for 3 years now teaching science, so I think that's kind of a litmus test. You look at the progress from, say, the 6th grade all the way up through, as far as that really becoming part of the culture. I see the big difference between the 6th and the 7th graders last year, and the 7th and the 8th grade, 7th to 8th grade this year. And imagine in the 3rd year,
Right.
yeah, it's not all rainbows and butterflies all the time. I'm definitely not gonna say that. There's sometimes it breaks down, and you have to discipline yourself to take steps back and start going through your expectations again and reteaching and taking that time. And that's tough to do, because you get going, we're all going with all the things that, that the tests are assessing with the kids and everything else that we're trying to do, and just keeping things going in the classroom. It's not easy when things are starting to break down with particular discipline, behavior expectation, to just bring everything back, put some other stuff aside, and give it the time it needs. But that's what you have to do.
But you also
We're still-
have it going on in the hall, you have it going on, hopefully in the buses,
Yeah.
but the cafeteria,
Right.
if you have it at recess, you're doing the same thing in a way, the whole whatever,
I
right?
think
You're allowed
it's
to do.
easier for those of us at the younger level, because the buy-in is easier. But the language consistency, the safe body, the respectful, be responsible, those kinds of things they hear. And if I say to them in the cafeteria, which I think is one of the most challenging places,
Yeah.
because they've come off from an hour and a half or 2 hours of, I need to do my work and be focused. Now I'm sitting with my friends and it's less structured. So we're still working on that, but all I have to do is walk by and say, you need to have a safe body, and immediately they're sitting. Feet are under the table, you
Know
don't
what it
have to
means.
harp on them.
Right.
They know why they have to have a safe body. If they go backwards, they're gonna crack their heads on somebody else's bench, and that's not fun. So,
No, sorry.
yeah, it's just, I think it's a little easier for us. They've got it really good down on
Do you
that.
think this is gonna go home?
Interesting.
I don't know.
That's an interesting
I mean,
question.
living here, the way they have to act here.
Take it home.
Parents should-
I don't know, Jeanette, but it's a great point, and I know that we have more contact time with many of the kids than their parents have with them. So you gotta hope that it's good because of that. We're gonna make some inroads just on our contact time and hopefully the positive things that we're,
No, but it would be nice to have the consistency if the
I know, I
parents
know.
know the wording that you're using or the hand signals and,
That wording does go home in letters
Sure
and
does.
emails and
Yeah.
all correspondence.
we can't monitor if it's happening.
No, and it should go on the bus. I mean, they just went from here to there to get on the bus, so some of it's got to spill over there.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what was nice, a classic example, we were having a problem in our middle school lunch that cropped up in October. And again, having a system in place helped us get through it and get through this rocky road, I think, much quicker and much more effectively. And we were pulling kids, we were getting some of the culprit, reteaching them individually. Now, to be honest with you, that's probably punishment when here you are, you're coming and you're being retaught these expectations for the cafeteria, and they're going, oh man, this is, I don't want to go through that again. But it was good, because more than one or two, they were just getting to be raucous in there. But having those expectations to go back to, having the lessons to go back to, and getting in the habit of taking the time to actually do that, not let this keep going and going until it became more of a mess overall, was definitely helpful this year. And now it's awesome in there.
We tend to say things like quiet down. Well, to me, that might be quiet for me, but it might still be loud for you. So level 2 voice, please. Hands to yourself, what's that gonna mean? You know? I mean, it means different things to different people. So we're trying to be very clear.
that's what I mean, the consistency of everyone
Right.
saying the same words.
Instead of, hey, stop running, it's walking feet, please. It's a positive approach. Same thing, I want you to slow down message, but it's, this is what I want you to do, not what I want you to
Yes.
stop doing.
Right.
It's a reframing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Great feedback.
It's good.
Yes, I'm glad it's working.
Yes. All right, let's move on to number 4, which is our consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda. All in favor? Any discussion?
I just
We'll
said,
save it for number 5.
okay.
Number 5. Chair reports and superintendent. This is where we have our discussion on the consent agenda. Questions for any administrators or any of the administrators that have something they want to share?
If you have questions, go ahead. At the end, I got a couple of announcements.
I drove up and I saw a Christmas tree,
Yes, you did.
all lit up,
Yes,
very good.
yes, Monday I had the opportunity to go down and visit with Jan Beeler.
Yep,
Again, you know, our ongoing tradition of their family donating a tree to the school.
yep.
I sent an email out to the staff to let them know that I'd gone down, and one of the things I requested this year from the Beelers was a big tree.
I see it, that is a big tree.
And they really came through.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my truck was very full.
Yeah.
But
It was the first thing I said is, that's a big tree.
I said, wow.
I feel honored and I enjoy going down and visiting with Jan each year, and it means a lot to the family and it means a lot to the school. It means a lot to the staff that worked with Brian, and it also gives us a chance to let the staff that didn't work with Brian know, you know, how important Brian was to the school and how passionate that he was, and it's a great thing. So, happy to do it and wanted it done before the holiday concert tomorrow night, so.
Do they all know Brian still watches out over here in the school where the picture is at the
We all
gym?
do.
Good.
Thank you for going and getting it.
Oh, you're welcome, glad to do it.
Any other questions about any of the reports?
How'd you get the lights up there? Did you use the tractor to haul yourself up to the top?
No, I have a few tricks.
Decorate it while it's laying down.
Jeanette just gave away my trick.
I just got a couple of quick, couple public announcements and then one thing to show you folks. First one, holiday concerts tomorrow night at 6 p.m. It's going to be a traditional holiday concert with a little bit of a twist. We're going to have some narration by some students, and the band's going to be intermixed with the chorus to keep folks around, and with a crescendo, I believe, of all students singing at the end. We're trying something new. I thank Travis for really rolling up his sleeves and being creative and having the courage to try something new. We don't know how it's going to go, but we're excited to try it. And Terry Minahan's been wonderful to come in and help the kids with the narration piece and the theater. I mean, we're just blessed to have her in the community. She's wonderful, huh? So she's been there every step of the way. Winter holiday break starts here a week from Friday on the 21st. Will be the last day of school prior to, Friday the 21st prior to the winter holiday break. And every school, kind of has champs, and usually those champs are within the sports realm, sometimes theater, sometimes music. You bring home the gold ball or the gold piano or the theater trophy. Well, we have a champ in the room, and it's Andy Brazier, because of something I gave him the other night. I just wanted to show the school committee. This is going to be hanging up in the hallway. Right? The season has ended, and Andy is our champ. I'm sure you're all aware, so make sure it happens up tomorrow night right by the water fountain where it belongs. So once people want to go to the concert, they'll see it. I'll say right where we want this in school, and then you can take it home later. How's that sound? All right, thank you very much.
Hey, Andy.
Celebrating Andy and his skills. He is a masterful bow hunter. All right. All right, so, we're on to Lori.
Yes, let's move on to number 6.
I will move.
In the meantime, if Andy wants to make some mincemeat cookies for us sometime.
Okay, so so one of the things as part of PBIS, and John asked me to pull some of the data out of our Swiss system. So all of the behaviors that we've taken the time to really sit and make sure the kids know the expectations, and then when they are not following expectations, we have a process where teachers are either filling out a behavior referral form, and there's minor infractions and there are major infractions. So the data I'm going to show you are all the referrals that have been submitted to date, and as of yesterday, Amanda had them all entered into the Swiss data system. Minors are typically filled out by the classroom teacher. Those are things that are happening in the classroom. And then if there's a major, it goes through administration, and John or I would be the ones to make sure that we're working with the kids and notifying parents of those types of infractions. So we were looking at our data, and so the Swiss system, we can go in and really drill down to multiple levels of information, and we've really just started taking a look at this. So when John says, yes, we have the data, now we have to talk about how we're going to use it. So this is what we need to now start using either in cohort meetings or during ERD time, and it becomes part of our RTI process. So when we look at it by month, this is average referrals per day per month. So when you look at September, we were looking at 5 referrals per day. October, that went up to about 8.9 referrals a day. And then as we get back into now November and December, you can see the decrease of the number of referrals each day. And I have to say, my first year here, that month of October was extremely busy, and it has been, for whatever reason, getting, and I don't know if it's like expectations for the new year and consistent expectations, and people are following them, so now, kids know, what those expectations are. So we have it by month. We can look at it by day of the week, which is interesting. Why Tuesday and Thursday? Do we end up with more referrals on those days of the week versus, Monday coming off a weekend or Friday getting ready for a weekend?
Were the referrals, this is the teacher one or the teacher plus the
This is all of
administration?
them.
Okay.
All of them, yep. Yep.
And just as a pause on that, just because a teacher could do a referral and it doesn't actually require any kind of a consequence.
Right.
It's just data.
Yeah, right.
In this case, Johnny, I wrote down a referral for a minor because I had to self-correct Johnny like 6 times in class. Doesn't mean Johnny's mom got called, doesn't mean he stayed after, it means the teacher dealt with it, but we collected data. If it makes it to Lori and I, there's some sort of consequence that needs to be given because it's called a major, it's something that's not okay.
So I think looking at the days of the week, that's interesting. looking at the time of the day.
Yeah.
Is it happening early in the morning when they first get here? Are there more referrals during lunch and recess time? Is it at the end of the day? And then we can take a look at where the spikes are there. Just interesting. Referrals by location. So you would think most of them are happening in the classroom, but then we're looking at the playground. So that would be the next step down from classroom. So what's going on the playground, and what are we doing about some of the referrals that are coming in from the playground, and how are we handling that? And so you can look across all the different places in the school. By grade level?
You notice when you do your pre-K through 8, you notice something about those numbers? You'll find it as you work your way up to 8. Lori and I were like, huh?
Oh.
There's no 7. Our 7th grade hasn't received a, well, maybe. Depends on how Lori handles it tomorrow.
This afternoon.
It is the 7th grade. We had to see
It was on the bus.
Yeah, I said it was on the bus.
Morning. But
Oh, my
I just leaned over to Dave and go, the 7th graders haven't had a referral. And he goes, they're a wonderful group. I go, they are. But that seems like such an anomaly. Of the 18 or so of them that have been here with every other kid this year, none of them have received a referral. It's the nature of the group. Look at 2nd grade. Look how bad he is.
And that's the
And there's
bigger
big class. There's 2
yeah.
classes in 2nd grade. A bunch of them. There's more of them than anybody in the building. Look at 2nd grade. Yeah.
And then we can also look at referrals by problem or behavior. If you see an M in front, that's a minor. That's happening mostly in the classroom. And then if it doesn't have an M in front of it, then that's on the major side.
Just for the people that might see it on video, what are your top 3 there, Lori, going up? What's your top major, your top minor?
So the top major is defiance,
Yeah.
and the top minor is defiance.
And defiance can come a number of ways. It can be, no, I'm not going to do that, thank you very much. Or it can just be putting your head down and not responding. We call it shutting down. You know?
So, and then there's this summary report, and I know that's hard to see. But what this will help us with is the RTI process. Because when we're looking at the pyramid of RTI and that tier 1 is supposed to be all of pretty much the green, and you'll see a green could be 0 or 1 referral for any of the students in the school. And that's what those first 2 columns at the bottom break out, how many kids don't have a referral at all versus how many have 1 referral. And that sort of represents that green portion of the pyramid. And then you get into the yellows where you have kids who have anywhere from 2 to 5 referrals. And so that's where, you might start thinking about, are those the students that need some sort of a support plan or a behavior plan? And are those behaviors for them, repeating behaviors, and where are they happening, and taking a look at strategies for that. And then you've got the red or the pink area where you have a small population of kids who have 6 or more referrals. So really looking at that student population and coming up with the strategies and the behavior plans that we can work with them on changing some of their behaviors. So this is an interesting report that I don't even know if the PBIS committee has seen yet. I've been in the Swiss system sort of playing around with the different reports that you can get, and this one jumped out at me for the RTI purpose and taking a look at, how are we falling? Because typically RTI is you want, 80 to 85 of your percent of your population in the green, which, is where we're falling, and then the next population would be the yellow, and the smallest population should be your red. So taking a look at that and making sure that, we have that represented, and we'll be able to tell who those kids are that are in that yellow and red area, so we can start really working on strategies with those particular students.
One of the biggest takeaways from the conference, the keynote speaker was from
Michigan, Dave? I think the first guy, not the first guy, I think he was from Michigan.
Yes, Michigan.
And he worked with a cohort of schools, and he showed research that suggests as your referrals go down, your academic achievement goes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the big push of that day.
So that's the data that we've collected to this point. You know, and as John said, as we work through the PBIS committee, we'll talk about how to use this data with staff, and then some training around what the strategies would be for the kids at all levels of that pyramid.
Now, what is Swiss? Is that just a program? Is that a program name?
Yeah, it's just a program, software program where we
Software.
collect all the,
Yeah.
we enter all the data. It generates all the graphs and reports.
Might mean school-wide information system.
Yeah, it does.
I think it does.
Start somewhere.
There you go.
Thank you, Lori.
Sure.
Nice job.
Any comments or questions for Lori?
I like seeing that data.
I do too.
It'll be very interesting when you can do a little bit more with it.
Yeah.
But it's reassuring to see the majority
Yes.
of the students
That's
aren't
the other
having
thing. And then
problems.
one of the columns was like fights, and it was very low, so that's good.
Yeah.
You know, to see that it's, you know, because I don't know what's going on in the school that way, and to see that that's way down, and it's good.
Good. All right then. Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to committee reports. Anything from the Long Range Planning Committee?
Nothing, but we will be meeting in January.
Okay.
Do we want to do that before the school committee meeting?
Yeah.
So we'll book that now? Okay. So that would be the evening of the 8th? What time would you like to do that, Mary?
4 o'clock?
Does that work?
Yep.
We're on at 5, so we'll meet at 4?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, how about the Policy Committee? We have a couple of things in our packages.
Well, the one we had looked into before was JLF, reporting child abuse and neglect. And then we had to, that should be all set there.
Second read for adoption.
But then we discovered we were going to do a JLFR, the procedure. And with that, there were several different changes. Instead of using, well, like in the first paragraph, change the board to the word committee, and building principal, superintendent. Is that what the new paper you have, things like that, changes like that. Law enforcement instead of the district attorney, and you'll see what the changes are. Okay, so that was that, and that went on to JLFE, this word changes there. And that's it then. So we should,
So we looked at this for our first reading last month.
yep,
And I'll be looking for a motion to accept JLFE and JLFR and JLF. Is there any, or is there just the two, E and R?
well, no, well, it all goes together.
Okay, JLFE. Okay, I'll look for a motion to accept policy JLFE, suspected child abuse and neglect report form, second reading for an adoption.
So moved.
And I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that we accept that as adopted as a policy. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? So moved. Okay, we have a couple others in here. These are reviews. These are just,
These are cleanups from when we did the student wellness policy. We were at the very end, and these two were connected to the student wellness policy, but because we didn't have that final meeting, these two didn't get completed, so I just had them finish it up. So you see the few changes we made, they're either the strikeouts are there, or what we added, I've they're underlined, so.
Right,
But this is actually just to finish up where we left off last year.
and it was adopted in February of 2002.
Right.
So this would just be an update on both of these policies.
Correct.
So I'll look for a motion to accept as amended and updated DFF, income for school sales and services, and EFE, competitive food sales.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on those? All those in favor? I remember when we first started working on this policy.
15 years ago.
Yeah, but at that time, it was like, what? We can't have a cupcake in the classroom?
I think we just kind of
It was
skated by all that.
Yeah.
That was,
It was pretty crazy. All right. How about the negotiation committee?
Going good. We're still negotiating.
Okay.
We're being safe, responsible, and respectful.
Thank you, that's what we'd like to have our board represented in that matter, so thank you. All right, is there any new business? Any old business? All right, then I will look for a motion to go into executive session regarding personnel issues.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session regarding personnel matters.
5:54.
5:54.